everyone knows Oracle from databases and this traditional corporate enterprise reputation, but so many people want to know, well, how is Oracle leveraging all of those great skills and capabilities, their expertise in the cloud to support the educational EdTech K-12 higher ed environment? That's why I'm so excited to allocate the next half an hour in our agenda to hearing what Mary and Trey can share with us on what's new and different coming out of Oracle. We all know Oracle in San Francisco. Now I guess Oracle's moving to Austin like so many other companies. I remember back when I was going out to California, I used to drive by the 101. You'd see all the Oracle buildings right on the water. And I'm sure there's going to be some similar complex like that in Austin. Mary and Trey, all yours.
Well, hey, thank you so much, Ron. I'm Mary Olsen, as Ron said, and I lead the program development for Oracle's education market. And I'm really excited to be here today to reintroduce many of you to Oracle. Ron was saying that we know the database, but Oracle has changed so much. We have a Generation 2 cloud architecture that was purpose-built for secure enterprise computing. It offers extremely fast, low-cost infrastructure, and it provides educators and administrators with the tools they need to succeed in today's tumultuous environment. And as a company, Oracle's mission statement is to help people use data in new ways, discover insights, unlock endless possibilities, which is perfectly aligned for education. I'm joined by my colleague, Trey Lowery, who will do a deep dive on K-12 solutions. Well, I know many of you in attendance today are from higher ed, and these solutions benefit you as well. Then I'll wrap up with very specific examples that are higher education and research oriented. Trey is a K-12 cloud platform specialist whose professional experience spans various roles in operations, leadership, and IT infrastructure. For the past 2 years, Trey has been focused on the first steps a customer takes toward their private cloud, hybrid cloud, or full cloud migration. Trey lives in a suburb of Austin, Texas, where Oracle is now headquartered, with his wife and 2 elementary-aged children. He's very involved in supporting his local school district through fundraising and community programs, and his wife, his better half, serves as the Diversity and Inclusion Officer and the Autism and Neurodiversity Awareness Advocate for their campus. Thanks for joining me, Trey.
Thank you, Mary, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone on the call. Thank you for giving us your time today. I am the K-12 platform specialist for the Eastern US for Oracle, and I want to take some time today to focus on K-12 specifically. We recognize that technology in K-12 poses a unique set of challenges that require dedicated representation from companies like Oracle. My experience shows that you tend to get lumped in with either state and local government or higher education. And while your initiatives may be similar, your roadblocks are very different. It's clear that the future of education lies in technology. I mean, can you imagine the last 18 months without the ability to just jump on a Zoom or a VPN, just getting into your data center from home? Just a couple of weeks ago, my son's class had to pivot from on-campus instruction to 10 days of remote instruction due to COVID restrictions. I can't even begin to consider what that would have looked like 20 or even 10 years ago. So the world of tomorrow is approaching faster than we can predict. And in some cases, it's already here. Emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, and IoT are driving new business models that nobody had ever heard of just a few years ago. Data can be harnessed for everything from optimizing bus routes to hiring your next faculty superstar. I mean, the jobs we're preparing our children for rely on our ability to use and teach technology. So where do we start? I mean, Oracle's a great partner for things like lift and shift of both Oracle and third-party applications, and it's much easier to set a fixed cost and guarantee that you won't exceed it. But let's talk about the 3 main focuses that I hear from districts today as they're beginning to dip their toes into the cloud world. The first is predictive analytics that actually work to forecast student success and staff retention. The second is data security. And the third is, how do we tackle these projects with our staffing limitations? So let's start with predictive analytics. Most districts collect a mountain of data, and the challenge is, how do we sort through it and visualize it to allow us to forecast and to take action? Oracle Analytics Cloud has been widely adopted in higher education because of its machine learning and AI capabilities that can predict enrollment and student and teacher retention. But we're beginning to see a larger adoption in the K-12 market with a similar but expanded use case. I've spoken with many districts that are manually drawing data out of their student information system into PDFs. And then someone has to go in and load that data into an Excel spreadsheet for reporting that gets distributed to faculty. I mean, this process is incredibly labor intensive and cumbersome. It also introduces elements of human error for both report generation and just understanding the data. Predictive analytics for these districts can be all inference and educated guesswork. I mean, large analytic workloads can take hours or even days to process and even longer to distribute. Of course, I'm sure everyone on the call is familiar with the challenges that this introduces. Reporting and forecasting rely on incomplete data from divisive and disconnected environments. Staffing and budgetary limitations challenge your ability to overcome the infrastructure and software customization that would allow you to connect these dissimilar pieces. So OAC simplifies and streamlines the process, eliminating the human intervention that's needed to load data. But OAC isn't limited to student information system data. OAC can pull from multiple sources with multiple data types to provide a single source for line of business and IT analytics. OAC doesn't require you to completely re-architect the way you capture and store data. I spoke recently with a CIO from a very large district whose schools were all allowed to choose their LMS and SIS independently. This introduced discrepancies between the campuses because the names of relevant data were different. It made it very cumbersome to run analytics that could compile and connect the dots between disparate systems. OAC's use of machine learning keeps you from having to constantly make adjustments to these relevant data sets. OAC can address all of your state and federal reporting mandates for student success and retention planning. A district in Pennsylvania uses these dashboards to match students in need with district resources for early intervention. Because the district resources are in such high demand, logistical efficiency and the mapping capabilities of OAC enable them to reach as many students as possible, and it greatly improves the success rate of these involvements. OAC can also provide insights into the financial efficiency of programs designed to improve student engagement or retention. Reporting and forecasting focused around teacher curriculum and performance can be overlaid with student success and interventions to give a more complete picture of how your district dollars actually impact results. I recently spoke with a district in Maryland that's feeling the impact of the bus driver shortage. Not only did they want to determine whether they were running the most efficient routes possible, but they wanted to know what impact the bus schedules had on student education. Are students that are arriving an hour into the school day negatively impacted? Do these tardies lead to absences? Where's the tipping point where the student's frustration with their transportation becomes something more serious? What's the impact of offering incentives to parents to provide other means of transport? And can that impact allow enough flexibility to cover bus routes with fewer drivers? The possibilities are endless, but with staffing limitations and data security concerns, how do we collect and manage the data safely and efficiently? That's where we introduce Autonomous Data Warehouse. Student data is an incredibly valuable and vulnerable commodity. I mean, ransomware attacks have cost state and local governments millions of dollars over the last few years. In 2020, the average total cost of a ransomware attack in education was $3.6 million. And with new student data laws being introduced in Congress, security initiatives are being thrust from the thrust into the spotlight and will soon become requirements. It also takes a ton of technical expertise, both from the infrastructure and database teams, to manage a data warehouse. I've talked with several districts that used to have a data warehouse, but they lost the ability to keep it either through staffing attrition or just loss of funding. So Autonomous Data Warehouse is a self-driving, self-patching, self-securing database that virtually eliminates all need for human intervention and thus any human error. It's the only database like it in the world. And now, drawing data from your student information system, your HCM or ERP into a data warehouse can be scripted and integrated into the most secure data warehouse available. ADW has built-in integration tools that draw data from anywhere, and it runs on Exadata infrastructure, which means that Oracle owns the whole stack. Everything from the OS, virtualization, infrastructure, and the database. And we know how to keep that data secure. This gives you the most powerful database running on optimal infrastructure without the cost to procure or manage the hardware. ADW can also scale resources, both compute and storage, elastically and automatically to ensure that you're only ever paying for what you use. ADW makes it easy to keep data safe from outsiders and insiders. It autonomously encrypts data at rest and in motion, including backups and network connections. It protects regulated data, applies all security patches, enables auditing, and performs threat detection on its own. ADW uses transparent data encryption, key management, MFA, activity monitoring and blocking, and data masking and redaction. So Oracle has revolutionized the data management world by making the full database management lifecycle completely automated. This works even for mission-critical databases with sensitive data, which allows you to innovate more and pay less, all the while ensuring that your data is secure. ADW protects the organization and all data against breaches, malware injections, DDoS attacks, malicious insiders, advanced persistent threats, insecure APIs, account hijacking, and more.
Hey, Trey.
Yeah, Bob.
You know, when I'm listening to this, and I know you and I are both involved in our respective school districts, it sounds like this is a really powerful tool when administrators are trying to secure funding either from government agencies, nonprofits, and then subsequently they need to get audited. I know, at least in my school district, it's very tedious, time consuming. People always question the integrity of the data. They always want to know, well, how do you ensure compliance if we do give you these funds? It sounds like one of the powerful benefits of this Oracle tool is making it easier for school districts to get those funding. It's competitive. We know coming out of DC, I don't know what's going to happen, but you know, I don't know if it's going to be 1 trillion, 4.5 trillion, but you know, there's going to be a lot of money flowing to help improve our country. And some of that obviously you're going to throw to education. And so it seems like that's another benefit beyond these general technology enhancements to make it easier for school districts to get that funding and to not waste time doing tedious tasks. And I think, and I'm listening to this, I'm less involved with my college alumni. It's a much bigger place, but it sounds like a lot of the same technology, even though you're emphasizing K-12, a lot of these same platforms and tools are equally applicable in a higher ed environment as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the challenge in K-12 is the resources available, both from a personnel standpoint and just a general funding, you know, on hand on a day in, day out basis. But higher ed has more autonomy to make those decisions. And where K-12, you know, struggles is they've got to plan those things out years and years in advance. And you know, Oracle has done a good job of setting guardrails for cloud consumption, both through service limits and alerts on a dashboard that updates regularly. That you know, our pricing structure is publicly available. it's easy to understand, and so it's a lot easier to budget. You're absolutely right, Ron, for autonomous data warehouse, because you can monitor those things closely and understand what it is you're paying for.
And again, it's the same benefits of the cloud. You're no longer involved in a lot of tedious tasks. You're involved in more strategic architectural tasks. Oracle's taken all the hassles out of this and enables you to do more with less people. We know school districts, at least mine, are constantly challenged. How do you hire technically savvy people who might want to work for Oracle or move to Austin?
Yeah.
And in doing so, the more senior people can then figure out the right architecture and then not have to worry about having to hire additional people to do a lot of manual tasks. Is that a reasonable statement?
Oh, absolutely. 80 to 90% reduction in the number of administrative tasks required for Oracle database and autonomous database. And
Okay.
Autonomous database is not just a data warehouse tool. There's autonomous transaction processing as well. So, it can completely automate a lot of those back-end monotonous tasks that everybody tends to dread. So if this is a project that your district has considered, but thought we don't have the resources or the personnel available to tackle it, it's time to reconsider. It's definitely something that we can do a lot of that lifting for you.
Great. Okay. Let me continue, but I just wanted to interject and make sure,
Sure.
as I'm an avid listener, making sure that I understand it as well as others.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the points that we're at in the K-12 space is that, years ago, everybody tended to believe that their security posture was improved by keeping data in your own data center. But with the addition of a lot of virtual learning for both remote access for students and staff, the surface area for malactors has increased tenfold. A district's ability to manage its exposure is completely limited. And Oracle has continued to invest billions of dollars into our cloud data security to make it an industry leader. We ensure that all data in our cloud is encrypted at rest and in flight by default, at no additional cost to our customers. We offer free database tools like the one you see here called DataSafe. It can audit your security posture. It initiates sensitive data discovery and shows you where the data governance concerns are or exposure risks on an easy-to-read dashboard. So our cloud ensures a zero trust deployment model that will only allow access to groups that are granted it. It limits the ability for humans to make errors that introduce exposure for your sensitive data. ADW and the free tools that Oracle offers with it can supplement any IT staff, and it gives you the keys to making data-driven decisions. So like I said before, 80 to 90% reduction in administrative tasks in a data warehouse or a transaction processing environment with ADW. So the last solution, and a bit of a left turn here that I want to talk about, is another area that COVID-19 brought into the spotlight. It's communication with staff, students, and parents. Several of our higher ed customers have struggled to hire enough call center staff to handle the influx of questions. What's the mask policy on my campus? What do I do to quarantine my kid? How do I report those absences to my district or to my school? From a staffing standpoint, how much vacation time do I have left? When do we sign up for benefits? So Oracle is an industry leader in digital assistants that augment staff and reduce the need for, and consequently the cost of, call center staff. So here you see a chatbot in action in higher education. It's assisting a student to manage their class load. On the left, you see the dialogue with the end user. On the right, the behind the scenes code, but it's not code as we know it. The user intents can come pre-populated in different languages, and it learns new intents, and you can add them manually. So it knows the different ways of saying the same thing. ODA, Oracle Digital Assistant, can augment call center efforts with 24/7 availability. It can answer questions, send alerts, create facilities tickets, check grades and attendance for students or parents. It can even submit and check vacation and benefits requests for staff. The difference between a chatbot and a digital assistant is the digital assistant knows who it's talking to, and it offers answers that are appropriate to that student, that teacher, that parent, or that administrator. So consider how much money you spend when your HR professionals or your teachers are answering the same common questions rather than focusing on and furthering district goals. So ODA supports delivery of multiple chatbot experiences. Its architecture is a single digital assistant that makes your point of entry into communication a single point into multiple areas of your business. This avoids making students and employees access multiple different areas and start over. As you can see here, it can be accessed from or broadcast to multiple channels, including text, Facebook, Twitter, and more. You can communicate with students, teachers, faculty in general, and send notifications. More importantly, these skill bots that are integrated with Digital Assistant can work in concert, so they can deliver more complex, multiple step services. Digital assistants are also easily assembled, and we deployed an ODA for the Oklahoma Office of Management and Enterprise Services, which I think they're about 30,000 employees, and we did it in 2 days. It's a very quick process for us. Imagine being able to type a note to your digital assistant that says, there's a broken tile in the 5th grade bathroom, and it knows how to create a ticket and fill out the proper forms to have it fixed. Or where can I buy a school shirt? And it's able to complete the transaction right there seamlessly. So the possibilities here are endless. And just like with Oracle Analytics Cloud, ODA isn't limited to uses with Oracle applications. ODA integrates with so many of the industry's most common third-party applications, and customizations are made quickly and easily. We work with many partners that can tailor an ODA to any campus in a matter of days, and it's very inexpensive engagement to have that done. So we've put all of this expertise into a complete set of solutions for educators that address the key challenges and needs that are top of mind for education leaders. We promote student success, foster operational excellence, enable data-driven action and data-driven decisions, and we can accelerate innovation. So the way we got here is we listen to our customers, and then we invest our money and resources to create innovative solutions that are relevant to them. You know, we invest heavily in R&D, including emerging technologies like AI and chatbot and IoT, but it makes it to where you don't have to worry. Instead, you can focus on running your district and delighting your students and administrators while we handle the infrastructure, the applications, the platform. AI is embedded throughout our cloud, and it can recommend roles, suggest courses, identify how interventions can improve graduation rates. You know, each year we spend $6 billion in R&D. And while our competition struggles to be profitable, which hampers their ability to invest at the same rate and incorporate customer-sourced ideas, 80% of our product enhancements are customer-sourced. We listen to our customers. Because of our continued investment and focus on our customers, we're consistently ranked in the top right leader quadrant of analyst ratings. So cloud technologies have unlocked a ton of possibilities to accelerate innovation and even right-size data center resources to fit current and future projects. Data security, data management, analytics, and staff augmentation are just a few of the ways that Oracle can overcome challenges in the K-12 space. We're excited to work alongside you to address initiatives and offer meaningful solutions to achieve your goals. Don't hesitate to reach out and let us get you the free resources to test drive these technologies. Thanks again for taking the time to join us, and I really look forward to speaking with and collaborating with many of you in the future.
Well, I really appreciate that information that you've shared, Trey, because it makes it crystal clear that Oracle is positioned to help drive innovation in education through our incredible low-cost technology and innovation. What I'd like to do is kind of pivot a little bit and move our platform of the future discussion to some examples in higher education. And I want to just pick out a couple of specific examples. One is Northern Illinois University. What they did is they migrated their PeopleSoft environment that was on-premise to the cloud. And they did that primarily because they wanted to reduce their cost, improve their reliability, and provide scalability. And when they chose what cloud to use, they had, all kinds of different choices of platform, but they chose OCI because it was absolutely the most cost-effective from any vendor standpoint. And it also saved them the most on internal operation costs. So it was kind of a win all around. And there's another really important note here, and that's that they accomplished this migration at the start of the pandemic. COVID didn't derail them, and in fact, the migration ended up positioning them to better serve their campus in an uncertain time. Another example of a move was Gonzaga University. They took their Olsen banner implementation up to OCI, again, to save costs. But what they did with that money is they were able to invest that in security and improving their disaster recovery positioning. You also heard Trey talk a lot about digital assistants. Well, the one example I wanted to highlight is Loyola University in Chicago. And one of the things that they found is that their digital assistant, Louie, since it is deeply integrated into their PeopleSoft student environment, it lets the students ask advising questions, and it takes the pressure off of their staff and lets them get more deeply involved where their expertise is needed. And this exact same level of engagement is possible for all of the constituents, as Trey highlighted. And last, I want to just spend a minute talking about research institutions, because a lot of the R1 institutions are on our call today, and they're the ones that are helping use OCI to drive discovery. So there's University of California, Davis. And what they're doing is they're using Oracle's high performance computing and our GPU, our graphic processing unit capabilities, to enable drug discovery. What they're doing is predicting drug cardiotoxicity at the start of the trials to minimize that interaction. And another one I really like is the University of Southern California. Dr. Kim is a researcher there, and he's addressing a problem that I end up facing pretty much every day. It's potholes. He has a team of researchers that took first place in a global road damage detection challenge. And how they did this is they got a set of 26,000 images and then created some very complex AI algorithms that they were able to run on Oracle's bare metal servers. And so the bare metal servers that we deployed allowed their researchers to run high performance, latency sensitive workloads directly on the server hardware. Now, this approach is really similar to what they had on premise, except the big difference is that Oracle's on-demand bare metal servers were available anytime the researchers need, and they didn't have to use a scheduling system. That was a hassle that really helped them. And the last research example that I'm just really excited to share with you, because it's personal for me, is Jennifer Fowler. She's with the University of Montana Autonomous Aerial Systems Office, and that's a mouthful. But what she's doing is using our Oracle Cloud infrastructure to model wildfire behavior. And this is really important with all the fires that have been devastating the US and Canada this year. Well, what she does is she takes the hours and hours of aerial images that of 20 major wildfires recently, marries that with the detailed weather data at that time down to like the 100-meter level, which is huge, and GIS static data. Then she marries that with fire outcome to build a complex model to better predict the fire behavior. Well, these models, as you can imagine, are so data heavy that they were taking over 60 hours to run in their on-premise compute environment, one iteration. When they moved that up to Oracle Cloud, they were able to accomplish that in 60% less time. And so by doing that, they're able to create a model that could be used in an active fire situation to improve outcomes. And so these research use cases. To me, they're like one of the most compelling examples of how Oracle can help drive innovation in higher education. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I hope that we did reintroduce you to Oracle, and that in doing that, we piqued your interest in our Gen 2 cloud technology and what Oracle can bring to education. So with that, Ron, I'd like to see if there are any additional questions that may have popped up in the chat.
Well, there were a couple. Ron from DeKalb County Schools had a question about the source of the data that Trey's subsequent comments already answered. Plus, we had another question that I'm going to ask you to answer offline, where Robert from McNicholas Schools had a question of how some of your capabilities tie in with cyber insurance and where do you access the data that might lend itself better to an offline discussion. I think with each school district having unique situations and wanting to keep the agenda flowing, please continue to ask me the questions. If we don't get to them during the formal talk, we will get to them right away. I know Suleiman, who has been attending my Angelbeat seminars in Indiana for about 19 years, just commented that was an awesome presentation, so good to hear. The final thing I just want to point out, Mary and Trey, you can confirm this, even if you're not an Oracle customer, either for higher ed or K-12, these same capabilities can be overlaid on top of your infrastructure. You don't need to be currently a major Oracle database customer to take advantage of these other capabilities. And I want to, maybe you could comment on that to make sure that everyone should consider following up with you.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Trey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, you're absolutely right. We're actually working through a POC now with a customer that is referencing an on-prem SQL database, and OAC can be overlaid with that on-prem database, even though it's running in the cloud. So you just access it through that cloud interface, and you can visualize data there, and different lines of business can visualize different data.
Great. Well, that was really fantastic. Hopefully get some more questions. Mary and Trey, really appreciate your time today.